Hi, this is Katherine. This is Taking Tea with Katherine. This is Sleepy Time Tea from Celestial Seasonings, an old classic, and a relatively new cup full of cats. I should have a teacup with bears, because, you know, Celestial Seasonings, if you've ever seen the cover, the box, it has like a sleepy bear on a chair. But that's okay, because you know what? We can't pair up everything in life. It's very relaxing tea, though. It's very nice. Which I need to be relaxed because I have a very ambitious TBR. Mostly like what is called a pile of possibilities. It's a lot of things that I would like to start. A challenge I'd like to take a little bit of a part of, and a buddy read, and a couple of group reads. So I know I'm not going to be able to read all of these, but I can try. We'll start with the buddy read, and this is a Victorian classic, and from what I hear, a very funny one. This is Jerome K. Jerome's 3 Men in a Boat. This volume also has a second one. I wouldn't mind reading the second one, but I'm only aiming to read the first one for this month. It is a buddy read with one other person who is also what I consider a booktuber, because if you comment regularly on BookTube and you watch the videos, even if you don't have content, you are a booktuber. So yes, let you know my thoughts on this book. Here's another book that I really would, it's also Victorian. It's not Victober, I know, but whatever. FYI, I do also have some, you know, unfinished business from Jane Austen July. There's a couple of books that I started, made good progress in, didn't finish. I might attempt to read them, or finish them, I should say. And if I don't, you know, I might have to make September a slightly clean up month. We'll see. But I did read all the Jane Austen novels. I'll do the wrap up soon. This is not a wrap up. But when I think of Jane Austen, one of her natural successors to me is Anthony Trollope, and months ago I started a few pages in of The Small House of Ellington and liked what I read. But even though I love certain books, and I believe I'm going to love this book, I just haven't continued it just because so many other books. So I want to see if I can get to it in August, or at least get to a good part of it. I have 2 group reads. One is from the Summer of Suspense that Kate Howe is hosting, and I liked the first 2 books. The second one was a little odd to me, but the group discussion on Zoom was amazing, so made everything worthwhile. But this one is, for August, The Window at the White Cat by Mary Roberts Reinhardt. It was published around 1910, and it's not a very big book, just like 3 Men in a Boat, pretty short, under 200 pages. Could probably knock it out, and hope to enjoy it, and hope to enjoy the discussion as well. It's one of those Dover books, which is like a kind of thrifty kind of publisher, which is fine, because that's good access, you know. This book originally costed $6.98. That's not super cheap, actually, for whatever. It also makes me happy because it has the Central Adult Fiction, the Central Library in Jamaica, Queens, New York. A lot of good memories. I'm not going to get into that now. And then also another group read for the Fierce Women Book Group or Book Club. Anyway, which centers around women in history who have dealt with some kind of chronic illness. And this time the choice is Harriet Tubman, The Road to Freedom by Katherine Clinton. And this also could work with the history challenge, right? I love a good biography. I learned a little bit about Harriet Tubman in school, probably not enough, so it would be good to learn more. From what I know, her chronic illness, if it was just one, was narcolepsy, and that is actually pretty serious. I know sometimes I've seen TV shows that make jokes out of it and stuff, as things do. But if you had that, can you imagine? That would be something to deal with. So it's good to see how she worked with such an illness and other obstacles in her way. Yes. Okay, so this is a book that's another runoff from Jane Austen July that I didn't even start, but I want to, so I can maybe fit in with my mystery reading this month. And this is Pride and Premeditation by Tears of Price, a Jane Austen murder mystery. I really hope I like this. So I'll let you know if I actually get to this one. 2 library books, other library books, because some of these books I showed you were library books, but I did find out that they took the grace period of, we're not going to impose fines on you for overdue books. It's supposed to be till the end of June. They extended it September 30th. I don't want to take overly too much advantage of it, but I'm pretty happy about having that, just in case I can't finish all the books. But these are the 2 that I really would like to focus on in August. This is Laurie R. King's Castle Shade, a Mary Russell Sherlock Holmes mystery. Yeah. And lots of good blurbs in the back, so that's really cool. What is it? A lively adventure in the very best of intellectual company. Sounds all nice when you feel very intellectual. And China by Edward Rutherford, an author I did discover in the library I just mentioned before, that Central Library in Jamaica, Queens. Very long story short, it was a book of his called London that my sister, who was with me in the library that day, showed to me. She's like, I bet you like this. And I'm like, you bet correctly. And I read pretty much most of his books, and so this is his latest one. Kind of excited about that. Not excited to have enough to have begun it, but now we've reached the history challenge. I know Harriet Tubman technically counts, and some of these books that are historical fiction can sort of fit in. So hopefully I will remember when I do when I post this, to put the names of all the booktubers that are hosting this history challenge, because I think it's a lovely thing. It runs from August 16th to the 31st, so it's more than half a month. Gives someone ample opportunity to read at least one history book. There's all kinds of prompts. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read what I can and see how they sync up with the prompts, instead of trying to, pick books according to the prompts. At least this year, that's what I'm going to do. Nothing against prompts, by the way. Just I'm trying to keep things simple for the next month or so. And which is almost impossible for me to do, because I do not know how to keep things simple. But anyway, there are 6 books I have here. Obviously, all of these books are not tiny books, so there's no way I can finish all these books, but I can at least start a few of them, and maybe finish at least one of them. So I'll show you what these are. As far as input, I'm not asking any of you to pick these books for me, or to vote on anything, but if any of these are like a real absolute favorite of yours, and you think, wow, Katherine, from knowing what you read, you'd really like this book, I have no problem with you saying that in a comment. I mean, obviously, I love encouragement. A big chunk of these I bought in Book Off. This is a big one. I've been wanting to read some more Russian history. I read a little bit, but not enough. And I have other books, honestly, that are shorter that I could have picked. But I thought I'd go all ambitious and pick this one. The Romanovs, 1613 to 1918, Simon Sebag Montefiore, I hope that's how you pronounce it. It's beautiful blue color. So that covers a big chunk of time. What is that, 300 years? Am I doing math correctly? So, yeah, I really do want to start this. And then there's also Silk Roads, A New History of the World by Peter Frankopan. Isn't that pretty? I have something actually at home. It's like a throw thing that looks very much like that. Anyway, I think they call that mandala or something. It's a decorative ceiling from the Tilya Kari Madrash, Registan Square, Samarkand, Uzbekistan. Oh my goodness. Wow. Anyway, so this is actually a history of, a new history of the world. So, I mean, this covers a lot of time and space. So, I've been meaning to get to this. Also, I've been meaning to get to the next book, The New Silk Roads, but let's take one at a time at this point, right? Going to a slightly more recent history. This another book that I would like to read is Book Row, An Anecdotal and Pictorial History of the Antiquarian Book Trade by Marvin, Mundlin, and Roy Meador. Book Row used to be a bunch of books shops on 4th Avenue in Manhattan, which must have been wonderful. It's like, to me, like what Charing Cross Road is in London or whatever. Used bookstores, and all but I think 2 of them are gone now. When I say gone, I mean just they don't exist. There's like one bookstore I think on 4th Avenue that I know of that is still around. That's called Alabaster, but it wasn't around I think during this history. But 2 bookshops are around, but just in different locations, and one of them is the Strand, which is pictured here in its current location, where I actually visited recently and didn't buy anything. But that doesn't mean I have all this self-control. I did buy books recently, a lot. But anyway, I really want to read this in August because August is the 30th anniversary of my first visit to the Strand, which I want to talk about further, but not right now. So that would be kind of a fun little anniversary thing. A lot of little Katherine anniversaries in August. The 3rd would have been 16 years since it is 16 years since I took Zenobia home, my cat that died in May. Sad. But anyway, you guys didn't need to know that. Let's get back into history. Here's another book I've heard a lot about, and I do like reading about Rome. Usually, SPQR, A History of Ancient Rome by Mary Beard. So, yeah, right? And okay, so I recently saw that Peter Ackroyd has been writing a series of books about the history of England for a number of years, and in September I think he's publishing the last one, which is a very recent one. It has a picture of Queen Elizabeth II on there, I think when she was younger. Pretty sure I saw that on Steve Donahue's channel. He got like a advanced copy. That looks so exciting, but I'm also like, well, I realize that I haven't read all the books in this series. I read a number of them, and I have a number of them, but I haven't read all of them. So it might be nice to start with the first one, because I don't think I've read this one. And that's Foundation, The History of England from its earliest beginnings to the Tudors. Kind of not, kind of a small book for that amount of history, but, I never get tired of English history, to be honest, or British history, so I don't mind that. Also, speaking of British history and other parts of the world, this is, last but not least in terms of size, I already started a few pages in. Seems pretty interesting. This is The Perfect Prince, The Mystery of Perkin Warbeck and His Quest for the Throne of England by Anne Rowe, author of Pontius Pilate. That's another part of history altogether, yeah. Or is it Pontius Pilate? I like saying Pontius Pilate. But anyway. Adds a little punch into it. Anyway. I blame the sleepy time. It always makes me a little relaxed and silly. Okay. So, I know a little bit about Perkin Warbeck, just from reading English history, reading early Tudor history, late Plantagenet history. When Edward IV, who was a Yorkist king, I'm not going to get into the whole thing about the Wars of the Roses right now, but he was a king in the late 15th century, and he died at 40 years old, had 2 sons, heir and a spare, and a bunch of daughters. But for a lot of reasons that aren't really understandable, but, have vilified him in history, unless you're part of the Richard III Society, Edward's brother Richard decided to take the 2 boys, also named Edward and Richard, into his own custody and put them for their safety in the Tower of London. And he became, for reasons, Richard III, and then the boys ended up disappearing. So if Edward, the older brother, would have disappeared then and never came back, then his younger brother could have been the king, but he also disappeared. And in the long run, another claimant to the throne, kind of dubious, but Henry Tudor came along, defeated Richard III in a battle, became Henry VII, and that's not it. You think he was secure now? Well, there were plenty of other people coming saying, no, I have a claim, and things got put down. A lot of pretenders, a lot of imposters, and it couldn't have been, not that I'm in love with Henry VII whatsoever, but it couldn't have been easy to run things when you never know when someone's going to come and say, oh, this person, that person. And one of the people who came in was this guy who we know now as Perkin Warbeck, which sounds like a euphemism. Perkin Warbeck. Like one of my euphemisms is jackknife tractor trailer. I have no life. But anyway, so what happened was at some point he showed up claiming to be the younger brother Richard. That should be the next king of England. And he had some backup from people who were related to him. But, which I'm wondering how much this book is going to cover. But the thing is, when Henry Tudor took the throne, he married one of the princes of the Towers, that they call them, one of their sisters, Elizabeth. I think she was the oldest sister. So, by rights, she probably should have been the reigning queen at that point. But they, I guess, weren't ready for that yet. Go for the next couple of generations down, and they will be, sort of. But he married her. So that kind of united the houses, brought out a little bit of a peace. But this guy was a bit of a troublemaker. And, yeah, he didn't have a great end. But this promises to be a pretty interesting story. And I do, like I said, I do want to see if this Queen Elizabeth was around, would she recognize her brother? Would she see this guy and be like, oh yeah, he could be my brother? Did she say anything? So if she didn't, then if she had seen him and didn't think so, well, that would have put paid to it anyway. But I think the deal is that he was imposter. But it's just an interesting part of the history of how Henry VII did not have a smooth kingship, even though he died in his bed, you know. And he must have been looking over his shoulder many times, as did his son, because, you know, once Henry VIII became king, you could tell by his actions, he wasn't just secure in his life and, oh yeah, I'm king, no one can dispute it. I mean, he was very, very conscious of the fact that he needed to establish the Tudor dynasty. So, yeah, so I do find that interesting. But that's a lot of books. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these and what you think of them, maybe. And if you do, recommend any of them for my next read. And obviously the History Challenge is just over 2 weeks. I don't know how I'll be doing with the other books that I'm reading, but I do feel like I might, because I just love reading history anyway, I might get started on at least one of these earlier on in August. But we'll see. So I'll be coming back soon, I hope, for a wrap-up of July. I have a few thoughts on the books that I finished, and I will hopefully keep you up to date with what I've been reading through either Friday reads or mid-month or whatever. So for now, this is Katherine at Taking Tea with Katherine. Have a lovely tea and book filled day.